Today, Eli Berkovitz joins the show, shares some of the stories from Packers training camp.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah, ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm cash.
Welcome in another episode of Sounds Gouda. Thank you, everybody, for coming back and taking a listen to us. Of course, and as always, I am one of your two co-hosts. My name is Rob Ralph. Next to me is my best friend, Jordan Olson. Thank you to any new and returning listeners for coming back and engaging with us. We do appreciate the commentary and the back and forth with you guys. Just know that we do have new episodes every Wednesday and Saturday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So please make sure to like, sub, and follow us on those platforms. We are doing a promo here too. So every 50 subscribers, we're going to be giving away some free Sounds Good swag. So that next tier will be 600. There on fourth will be 650, 700, etc. So you do have to be a public subscriber. So please make sure to make sure that if you are not, that you are public, and we can enter you in that raffle for that. So with that, hopefully you enjoyed this interview with Eli Berkovitz.
All right, everybody. We have Eli Berkovitz with us again. We've been talking about this for a while, and we're really excited to get him back on the show. Ultimately, and we reached out to him a couple weeks ago, and he's like, I'm going to be at training camp. It would be a great time for us to get together and talk Packers ball after I come to camp. So welcome back to the show, Eli. And how you doing? And how was the vibe at opening day of NFL Packers training camp?
Yeah, happy to be back. Appreciate you guys inviting me back on. And yeah, Packers training camp, I was just talking to Rob before we were recording. It's always a good time. Like, no matter how many times you do it, it's just always fun, especially you go day one, your first real exposure to some of these rookies and new free agents. And there were this year, I think more than any other year, I saw interaction between the players and the fans during practice that you usually don't see. And it was mostly from the rookies, which was cool to see. We could probably get more into that as we get into the show here, but it's always a good time. If anyone hasn't been there yet, I highly recommend trying to get down there for at least one practice.
Yeah, I haven't been to training camp in years. I lived in Vermont for a while. Even now that I'm in Michigan, it'd be easy for me to get over there, but I got a young kid at home. But training camp always is kind of a fun time as the season gets going again, and the Packers do a great job of it. So, yeah, I mean, one of the things that I'm most curious about, I mean, there was huge buzz about it yesterday and today. We're recording this after day 2 of training camp, but, I'm sure there was a lot of people talking about it, but what did people have to say about Bo Melton wearing number 16 and playing corner out there? And did you get to watch any of them? And what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it happened at OTAs, everyone was like, all right, it's, not necessarily a joke, but it's like, okay, not probably going to work out. Kind of seemed like Melton was pretty much on his way out, probably not really to make a 53-man roster. But, you go and switch numbers and basically essentially fully switch positions. And the way Goody and LaFleur have talked about Melton these first 2 days, I don't know. I'm getting the vibe that they really want him to make this roster, or at the very least are going to give him every chance to make this roster. And let's be real, it's not like we have a lot of competition at cornerback. I mean, outside of the top 3, it's a completely open group. And I mean, even the top 3, it's not like we're dealing with 3 Pro Bowlers right now. I think there's some hopefully potential there, but anything after those top 3 is wide open. If Melton can prove that he can become a corner, look, I think it would be cool. I think it would be a cool story. And I will say, just from being out there, he definitely did look pretty smooth out there. You could tell, maybe some of the finer details of the position he's still picking up, and that obviously makes sense. But he definitely didn't look lost. He was playing some tight coverage. He had a nice pass breakup today in practice, which the crowd definitely appreciated. So overall, right now, I would say it's maybe like, in my head, like 30 to 40% chance maybe he does pull it off and make the roster. And again, when you have such a weak cornerback depth, I think anything's possible. So I think it would be fun, but we got to see how the rest of training camp goes for him and how he really plays the position, especially in the preseason. We'll see in live game action.
Am I hearing you right? And you saying that you think that unless he makes the roster as a cornerback, that he's probably not on this team come September?
I mean, it's hard to say that I think he probably is, just because you just about never ever see a wide receiver, or really anyone switch positions, let alone switch sides of the football, what, 3, 4 years into their career. Like maybe you'll see a receiver turn into a tight end or vice versa, or a tight end turn into like a fullback or whatever. But you don't see receivers turn to corners in the NFL 4 years into their career and stick around. So I think it's certainly possible. I mean, I know that a lot of people who follow the Packers very closely on Twitter have been saying that. I'm saying people who are at the team facility talking to LaFleur and Goody, they seem pretty confident he's going to make this team. I'm not saying I think it's impossible, but as a betting man, I would say it's less than 50-50. Maybe it's not 70-30, maybe it's 60-40, but I hope he proves me wrong, because again, behind the top three guys at corner, I'll take anyone who shows me something. So let's see what he can do.
So Matthew Golden, the first round wide receiver, first time we've gotten a wide receiver in many, many years, decades to be specific. He's been nicknamed the Bullet. Been hearing a lot of good things, been seeing a lot of good clips, over on the interwebs. He's just juking people out of his mind. What are your first impressions of Matthew Golden within this offense? And then settle this debate for Jordan and I. Who gets 1,000 yards this season? Is it Matthew Golden or Romeo Dobbs?
Well, all right. Starting with how he looked, I mean, he looks like one of the fastest people I've ever seen in person, from years and years of going to Packers camp and being at football games and any other sporting event. Sometimes you see someone who just moves differently than other people. And Matthew Golden is just one of those guys. And even on plays where he wasn't getting targeted, just running his routes, you could tell defenders were struggling to forget keep up, but just stay in the same area code and I don't think it's just straight line speed for Golden. And that's a big deal. We're like, MVS was very straight line speed. He was not juking people. He was not great going horizontally across the field. It was all straight down the field. Golden can go side to side, sideline to sideline, juke the guy out in the middle of the field, kick it back outside. A lot more versatility there with the way he uses his speed. So I'm obviously very excited. He did, at least with the first team, he didn't see a ton of targets. The ones he did, I think he caught at least all the ones I saw him targeted. Again, a lot goes on. Anyone who hasn't been at a live training camp, there's like 4 or 5 different things happening at once. So it's hard for really anyone to see it all happen. But from what I saw, certainly didn't see any drops. So I'm pretty sure he caught about every target that went his way. And in terms of 1,000 yards, him or Dobbs, it's tough, because Dobbs, I feel like
Security blanket.
He's a safety net, but he also isn't necessarily very much downfield, where he could catch a lot of passes, but still end up in that 800 to 950 range. I don't know. I think the fact that they had Golden out there with the ones on day one says something, because the Packers really never do that with rookies. So I think they're going to want to have him play as early as he could handle it, and I think he could handle it. So I'm going to go Golden. Maybe it's a hot take. I don't know, but Golden's the kind of guy who could have 60 catches for over 1,000 yards. When a lot of times you see guys have 95 catches for 1,000 yards, he's the kind of guy who could have a massive yards per catch, and maybe not a huge amount of receptions, but you catch, a handful of 40-yard passes that, all of a sudden that's the difference from 750 to 1,000. So I'll go Golden on that.
Yeah, he could have one of those Jameson Williams types of stat lines, or what did Christian Watson? What did he have? 22.5 yards per catch or something like that, last year.
MVS always was like at 20 or close to 20 during his time with us. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. I saw in one of your tweets you were pretty excited about Savion Williams. I just kind of wanted to get your opinion about what the first glimpse at him looks like, and do you see him being more than a gadget player? I mean, I know we're like gleaning a lot of stuff from like 1 or 2 days at camp and a couple of reports, but do you see him having a significant role in this offense this year? Is he kind of a gadget guy? What did you see them doing with Savion out there? I know that he spent a little bit of time with the ones today on day 2 of camp.
Yeah, he's someone who the thought would be, okay, did you just draft a gadget guy in the 3rd round? But I don't think the Packers would do that, honestly. And I still remember the day after the draft, or maybe it was during day 2 after the day 2 ended. It was actually probably day 3 though. It was probably the post-draft conference. Matt LaFleur or Goody or both of them, but I know one of them, I think it was actually Goody, who said, like, basically along the lines of, we just drafted a receiver in the 1st round. We have a bunch of receivers. Maybe we don't really need one. Maybe this is a luxury pick, but like we have to have Savion Williams. Is basically the vibe he gave. It was like, maybe positionally it wasn't what we needed, but this is a guy that we think is so good. We don't care. We're not passing up on him in the 3rd round. And I get it. Like watching his tape, he has some of the most remarkable plays you will ever see. Like electric, both making a catch, but also with the ball in his hands. I mean, the spins, the jukes, running past people, but also he can high point and catch contested catches as well as anyone. The thing with Savion Williams is that he could do all of that, and then on the very next play, drop a wide open 50-yard touchdown with no defender within 20 yards of him. So that is something that I think is just going to come with playing the position more. We obviously in college, he lined up all over the field, including at quarterback a ton. He obviously played quarterback a bit in high school. So I think he just needs to play the position of receiver more. And I hope that they basically, yes, you need to use his skill set and give him some carries. Hell, I think it would be irresponsible to not have him throw, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 passes a year. Where like if you have a guy who's a receiver or a running back who has the actual ability to throw the ball to an open receiver, and usually if they're throwing it, they should be open. I think you got to take advantage of that. So that's another conversation. But either way, from what we saw, and again, it's only 2 practices, so we can't go projecting careers here. But he was playing like a receiver. Like he was making very smooth hand catches. It wasn't like clumsy, using his chest, using the body to catch the ball. He was running crisp routes, catching the ball with his hands in traffic. And again, I was texting Matt Freilich, who I do the Pack a Day podcast with. And he's just one of those people who you see him and you're like, okay, this guy is different than other people. I'm talking about Golden, the way he moves, and Savion just lining up. When you see him in his stance, like me and my brother, and we mean this in the most, like positive way. It was like he looks like a gazelle, or like I said, even like a horse almost. Like the way he's so big, he's so tall, he's so thick, but he moves so fast. Long arms, long legs, like lanky but still thick, like not like lanky and thin. It's just I'm very excited about him. I think he's the kind of guy who, yeah, there's going to be plays that probably frustrate the hell out of fans, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he dropped that ball, or maybe he missed a read, whatever. But if they could tap into what he does well and use them the right way, I think he could legitimately be a massive star. Like I really like sometimes it's a totally different player. Right, Puka Nacua was like a 5th or 6th round pick, and he just showed up in the NFL, and from day one he was clearly tremendous and just better than anyone ever thought he could have been, and all that. I actually think Savion Williams has that possibility, like just from seeing him these 2 days of like, if he taps into that, I legitimately think he could be a superstar.
Just leaning off that too, and I was reading some of your X/Twitter stuff. The other guy you said that really stood out to you, and we did a video on this too as well. It brings just a completely different element to the running game. But talk to us a little bit about, I guess, a couple of days so far with Marshawn Lloyd and what he could possibly bring into this offense, being kind of more east and west type of running back than your downhill runner and Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, so Lloyd, at least, unlike Golden and Williams, right, we got to see him last year training camp, a little bit of the preseason, obviously very little in the regular season, but the same as last year, right? It felt like in preseason training camp, every time he touched the football, even if it wasn't a 30-yard gain, it was like, whoa, that guy, like, he just bursts out of the snap with the ball. He's there in a flash. And I think it was one of the first plays when the team drills, and everyone was tweeting about it, where he had to carry up the middle, and in a flash, he kicks it outside, beats everyone to the pylon, like it was like a 30, 35-yard touchdown run. And a lot of times in training camp, when it's a running play, it's like, okay, like they're not tackling. It doesn't really mean, it's not that it doesn't mean anything, but it's like, look, at least for me being there personally, I'm paying way more attention to the passes than the runs. But this is a run that legitimately could have been a full game. He was not getting tackled. Like, he shot through the hole up the middle and kicked it outside. He was gone. But then every other carry he had, it just felt like he transported from 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage to 5 yards downfield in a blink. And that's going to be, that's something we definitely missed last year. Like, Josh Jacobs, obviously tremendous, was amazing last year. Love him. Want him to get plenty, like maybe a little less, but still, if he's not getting at least 18 carries a game, I'm probably not going to be too pleased about it. But if Lloyd, even in those 6 to 8 carries you might give to Lloyd, one of those plays could easily turn into a 40-yard gash. That could be the difference in a game where it's like, I think fans also loved Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks, but they weren't really giving us that. I think they were good players, and I expect for sure one, if not even both, to make the roster. I think the coaching staff loves them. But Lloyd just brings that different element, like you were saying, Rob, that I don't think any other running back on this team has right now, where true big play threat every time he touches the ball.
Yeah, I think the biggest question for him early is what his run block or his pass blocking will look like, an ability to pick up blitzers. They might not put him in that many of those situations, but he's going to have to show that he can do that. I saw a play at camp today that I think is a perfect thing when Marshawn Lloyd's on the field, but fake toss. You try to make teams think about his speed going to the outside. And then there was like a 15-yard strike on an inbreaker over the middle to Dontavian Wicks. I think we need a lot more of that kind of stuff in this offense. And I think with some of the guys we just talked about, Savion Williams, Marshawn Lloyd, some of that speed is going to help play into that a little bit more.
For sure. I mean, right now, between Jaden Reed, Golden, Savion Williams, the running backs, like, you have so many guys that can trick a defense when it comes to jet sweeps, misdirection, counter plays, that LaFleur needs to have that, 3-4 plays a game where you're faking something maybe to Savion in the backfield, and the defense has to respect that, and then you turn the other way and throw it downfield to Wicks or Dobbs or whatever. Or you have Jaden Reed come on a jet sweep that's not on fourth down, or, and fake it to him, and then turn around, then you throw a bubble screen to Williams or Lloyd, and they can get downfield. So there's literally like every kind of receiver and pass catcher that this team can have. And we haven't even mentioned Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. So the options are literally endless. It's really up to LaFleur and Stenovich in just crafting it the right way. But I do hope that they, over the season, just find their guys where it's like, yes, everyone will probably work in the rotation, but I think it is important to have your set, like your guy. Like, I think Love needs to find his guy that he's going to turn to reliably, both in the short stuff in the red zone, but also for deep passes. And I don't want it to be too much of a rotation, because I just think it's hard for quarterbacks and receivers to get into a good rhythm in a single game, when every other snap, it's a totally different group of receivers out there.
Yeah, I feel that. I'd be all for giving Jaden Reed or whatever wide receiver it is. Maybe it'll be Matthew Golden, but like giving Tucker Kraft, Jaden Reed another 15, 20 targets this season and try to get them into a little bit more rhythm. I'm a big believer in Tucker Kraft. I'm hoping that he has a big year. So what are some of the other camp battles that you're keeping a close eye on? And did you learn anything from your visit to camp that told you anything about those camp battles, obviously very early on?
Yeah. So I think starting at the offensive line, I do think it was interesting that it was LaFleur kind of implied that there's basically an open competition at left tackle, which, Rasheed Walker has been the guy, obviously. I think he's actually been, I would say, good, not elite, not great, but definitely not bad. And I think he's better than average. So I would just say he's been good. And I'm surprised that they would say that, but at the same time, you technically did draft 2 left tackles in the first and second round the last 2 years. So I don't blame you. And also, Walker's obviously the last year of his deal. So I definitely think they want to see what they have in Morgan and Anthony Belton at left tackle. So I do think, push comes to shove, Rasheed Walker is the guy week 1. I think it would have to be a combination of Walker playing, just having a horrific camp, which I can't imagine happening, with the combination of one of Morgan or Belton looking really good in camp and preseason. I don't see that happening. I don't think I really want it to happen. I think it would be best if we just have kind of the same offensive line. as last year. And if Belton has to, as a rookie, be on the bench, okay, that means you have a pretty good reserve offensive lineman. We know those guys go down pretty often. And speaking of Belton, real quick, so I should have also mentioned my Golden when it comes to the fan interaction. First, Belton, after they came out, the offensive line always works out like right up by the stands. And Anthony Belton from about 20 yards away starts charging the crowd, rips his helmet off, and just starts screaming, like kind of hyping up the crowd. And then he goes and runs down the whole sideline, getting the whole crowd going, which I've gone to camp for 6 or 7 years. I've never seen anyone do that. So that was fun to see, especially from a rookie, his first day out there. And then Golden, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes later, kind of did the same thing after catching a touchdown. He kind of went and was like giving fans high fives, which is another thing that maybe like the last day of camp, they'll come by the fans and like, take pictures and talk and this, that. But I haven't really seen that during a practice really ever. So it was cool to see two rookies get so engaged with the fans. I really like that. But back to the offensive line, again, I do think it's Walker who wins it. But look, if Jordan Morgan goes out there and is awesome, I'm not going to complain. I would rather Morgan be a tackle than a guard, considering we took him in the first round. But I do think it'll be Walker. And then another battle. I mean, look, we talked about Melton. That's going to be very interesting. The receivers are going to be interesting. But I am curious to see kind of at corner, like they're talking about Hobbs playing outside. They're talking about Nixon playing outside. Well, then where does that leave Valentine? We know Valentine's not playing in the slot. I assumed it would be, I mean, I almost assumed it would just be Hobbs in the slot, even though I know they said when they signed him he could play outside. But Nixon seems pretty set on being an outside corner. I think they don't mind that. And again, Valentine's an outside corner. So it's like, are they going to bench Valentine and maybe play Javon Bullard in the slot and have Nixon and Hobbs on the outside? It would be very interesting. It would be a smaller group. It would be a very versatile group because all three of those guys, I think you could argue, are slot guys, and they would all be playing across the whole secondary. So it's going to just be really interesting to see both how the top of the cornerback group goes and then also the back half with Bo Melton and Micah Robinson, the rookie, Kalen King last year, an exciting rookie that, by the way, like I think he is a dark horse to maybe not week 1, maybe not even week 8, maybe not even this year. Like I don't think you go from having the talent and the film that he had the year before he came into the NFL to just being a complete nothing. Like I don't know how he fell to the 7th round. That was shocking. I think it surprised everyone. So if he can have a big camp and a nice preseason, I definitely think he makes the roster. And then again, there's a lot of open room to step up and be a good corner for this team right now. So it's going to be cool to see.
So then what do you do with Javon Bullard then, Eli? Is he back up to Evan Williams? Is he playing the slot? How do you make sure that you're getting reps for Javon Bullard then with that situation?
I mean, I think if it ends up being Hobbs and Nixon on the outside, I think it has to be Bullard in the slot because you're not playing Valentine there, and I don't think they want to play Evan Williams there. So I think it would be Bullard. If it ends up being Valentine and Nixon on the outside, Hobbs in the slot, then yeah, I guess Bullard is just going to end up being, he could end up, in the NFL now, obviously, everyone's playing nickel all the time where they can still work him out onto the field and rotate maybe him and the slot guys. It'll be interesting. I like him a lot. I was very excited about that pick, and I won't complain if it ends up being Evan Williams that's a star and Bullard is kind of a role player, but I do want him to have a role because I think he's a very good player.
Yeah, it's similar to the tight ends, right? Like, I don't care if it's Luke Musgrave or Tucker Kraft, right? Like, as long as one of those guys is good. But I think Bullard played and started with the ones on day 1 of camp, So I think with Nixon and Hobbs on the outside, that very much might be their plan. So yeah, I don't know. I was looking at a lot of interesting notes on plays and things like that. I don't know, just a lot of fun things coming back from camp. I mean, having Nathaniel Hackett back on staff, I think, is kind of an interesting wrinkle. I don't think it sounds like he's not going to be heavily involved with the offensive planning. Sounds like he's going to reverse engineer the defense like Robert Saleh did last year for the offense. But I know he's a coach that a lot of those players and coaches think a lot of, despite kind of his record on his own in the NFL after the Packers. But I don't
Yeah,
know. What
it
are
was
your thoughts
interesting.
on? Go ahead. Yeah.
I think they also have Luke Getzey back in some role as
Mm-hmm.
well. So, a lot of old faces back in the building. But like you said, Hackett more of a consultant. I think they said he was going to be in and out throughout the season. I don't think he's like a permanent member of the staff there 24/7. But like, I don't know, man. When we had him, we were pretty damn good. I mean, Rodgers won a couple MVPs. We won a lot of football games. I get it. It didn't work out in Denver. Look, sometimes that's how it goes. The Jets are the Jets. It's kind of a dumpster fire. I mean, I don't really think it sways one way or the other, right? Like he's a consultant. I don't think he's not out there calling plays. He's not out there calling the offense or whatever. So if it's someone LaFleur trusts, someone LaFleur likes, Love does know him, has some experience with him, I don't think it can hurt. I think if there's ever a time where he's standing on the sideline and the Packers are having a terrible game simultaneously, the internet might try to run with it and be like, "Oh, Nathaniel Hackett, look what he's done." But obviously, I mean, I can't imagine he's impacting our down to down a football team all that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, did you see anything out of that defensive line group? Like, I saw a great picture the other day of Stackhouse walking in practice, and of course he's got number 93 in his body. He's built like
Yeah.
Gilbert Brown, maybe not as quite as heavy as Gilbert Brown, but seeing a big man out there in 93, of that size, gave me shades of Gilbert Brown. Did you see him or Warren Brinson show up in practice at all?
So they lined up right next to each other a number of times, which was nice to see the old Georgia boys back together. It is, I will say, when you're at a practice live, the hardest groups to really see is the offensive defensive line. You just don't have a great angle on it. And there's also usually we're watching the play, right, develop. So, but I will say, at least in terms of the defensive line as a whole, I do think Lucas Van Ness has shown out, made a couple impressive plays. Feels like he always, makes some nice plays. It's just he has the look of like a superstar. It doesn't translate so much onto the field. But obviously, he is a huge, huge part of this defense and what we're trying to do going forward. Kingsley Enagbare definitely had a good first day, at least for my eyes. He had made a couple of really nice plays. Rashawn Gary is, I mean, number one, I feel like he's just taking more and more of a leadership role, like a vocal leader, kind of getting everyone in line, which I like to see. But also, he forced a handful of pressures that first day. He was definitely tough to block. So, as a whole, again, I don't want to say, completely, this guy was great, this guy was terrible, because it's hard to see every rep. But those are just some of the guys that I know flashed on at least a handful of plays that I was like, okay, these guys are out here today, like playing hard.
So, I mean, what is your stance on the whole Elton Jenkins situation? Just wanted to go back to the offensive line really quick. Are you on the Elton Jenkins side? Are you on the Packers side? Do you think Elton Jenkins is our starting center when we start week 1 at home against Detroit?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think if it was a bigger deal, he would be holding out. He wouldn't be, he was at practice both days, right there, standing behind the play, watching it, talking to the guys, coaching up the young offensive linemen. So he's in it. I don't think it's like bigger than the team. I don't need to be here until I get my money. It's just number one, right? Obviously, and who knows how true this is, but Goody's calling it a back injury, and he's not holding out or holding in. And if he was healthy, he'd be out there, and that could be true. But either way, I mean, I get it. Look, Elton Jenkins has been pretty phenomenal for us for the most part of his career. And at the end of the day, guards have begun to make massive money in the NFL. I mean, guards are getting huge, near $100 million contracts. That was not the case a handful of years ago. So to move from guard to center, it does. I mean, it does take away some of your value, some of the glamour position. And while I almost think center is kind of more important than guard, because you're kind of the
Mhm.
centerpiece of that offense, but that's just what it is, right? Centers don't get paid nearly as much. That's the bottom line. And I think he does have a right to say, like, look, at the very least, either give me some more guarantees or give me some more incentives, give me a little bit, give me another year. I just think he's concerned probably about hitting free agency as like a 31, 32-year-old guy who just played center for the last couple of years. like we just saw Josh Myers get like, what was it, like a 1 year, $2 million deal or something ridiculous. Like, look, Josh Myers was not the greatest player in the world. When I saw that contract, I was shocked. Like, I was like, that is whoever his agent is, in my opinion, is terrible. Like, Josh Myers wasn't
Mhm.
great, but to see a guy who started for 4 years get a contract that he got, which I think was legitimately $2 or $3 million for 1 year, was really surprising to me. So I think Elton just wants that security. And I think he's earned it. I think he's been a great player for us. I've never heard a bad word about him in terms of locker room. I think it's always been the opposite, if anything. So I don't expect him to do some crazy big extension, but if he's asking for a little more, we have the cap space. He's a good player. Make it happen.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I'm hoping we see him out there too. It looked like today at practice there was some positive interactions. Him and Jordan Love joking around, him being with the guys. So, it seems like all arrows are pointing towards him coming back. And Goody often doesn't mince his words. They said they expected to see him back after his back injury is over. So, last question we have for you. We want to thank you for the time you've given us, but what do you think of the Packers' new 1923 throwbacks that were released on Thursday, which is today? But yeah, what are your thoughts? Do you like them?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah. I mean, I don't even like, I always loved the similar blue and brown throwbacks we had with Rodgers in the early 20s with the gold circle in the middle. I know some people hated them. I always loved them. We also happen to almost always win when we wore them. So maybe that's why I'd like them. But these, like, I feel like they took all the best parts of what those jerseys were and then improved on it with the helmet, obviously, but then like some of the gold details that they put on the jersey are great. But yeah, the helmet, like, I mean, I think it's pretty unanimous that people love it. I've seen a couple people being like, oh, that's just gross. And then it's like, number one, it's for a game. Like, it's like like for one single that, it's for one game. Like, whether you like it or not, like, it's fun, it's different. I feel like we never see the Packers really get, this exotic, which I appreciate them doing. So I'm all for it. I love it. They looked at like, of course, I leave Green Bay and then they stock the pro shop with all the new stuff. It's like literally, I was just in there and I spent too much money. And then I go now and it's like literally this incredible looking stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, it's
Uh,
also I'm gone. Like, that was brutal. I was like, literally, like, I felt like they saw me walk out of the store and like, all right, get the 1923 stuff out. Eli just left, get it up there. So that was a
Pack
little
up
bit.
the truck, yeah.
So I know the Packers Pro Shop. I know you're watching right now. That was pretty rude. You should send me a gift card or something. But I love it. I think it's cool. And I hope we wear it against a team that we should beat so we can have positive memories of this jersey.
I heard a rumor. It's probably only a rumor, but I heard Commanders game as an option for that. And I know the Commanders. I've heard that they're coming out with a throwback. Maybe perhaps they'll do a road inspired throwback, and it would be cool to actually see two teams with a pretty storied history play in some throwback inspired uniforms on the national stage. So yeah, I like the jerseys. I'm a big fan. Just putting that on the record. The helmets are pretty sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. The old school leather caps painted on. It's pretty awesome to see. Eli, where can everybody find your work? Obviously, you're on X, your socials, all that. Where can people find your stuff?
Yeah. So over there I still follow Twitter just because I don't know, it just doesn't seem right to not follow Twitter. But Book of Eli _ NFL. I just actually posted an article over a Packer Report going over some second year players that we actually talked about a bit today. Marshawn Lloyd, Javon Bullard being two of them that you could go check out. I'll be writing for Packer Report. I have been and I will continue throughout training camp. Probably once a week, maybe twice a week as we get closer to the season. So keep an eye out over there. And then obviously over on Pack a Day Podcast with Matt Freilich and Janelle Mackey every Saturday So you can check those out as well.
Awesome, man. Well, we can't thank you enough for your time too as well, and we hope to have you back on the show soon. So thank you so much, man.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. We would like again very much to thank Eli for coming on and being on the show. That conversation was actually a couple months in the making. He even gave us a shout out on his own podcast a while ago, thinking we were going to get together, and timing just didn't work. So again, thank you to Eli. We look forward to having some more conversations with him in the future. We're going to throw the links for where to find his work down in the description if you're on YouTube. Otherwise, you can find him at Book of Eli on Twitter if you're listening, or X if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So more great Packers content from Sounds Gouda every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks again for listening. Share this with your family and your friends. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on the other platforms. And make sure to comment with us. We had a lot of great conversation today, so let us know what you think on YouTube, on X. You can find Rob at Sounds Gouda with 3 A's, and I'm at Olson Jord. But until next time, Packers Nation, have a Gouda morning, a Gouda afternoon, and a Gouda night. Go Pack.
Been wanted this shit forever.